Right now, the global economy is getting hit by not one, but two massive shocks at the exact same time. It's a perfect storm, and it all starts with a tariff war.
So on one hand, you've got this tariff war. It throws a huge wrench into the works, making the price of, well, everything completely unpredictable.
And then, as if that wasn't enough, a real war breaks out. Suddenly, it's not just about the price of goods, it's about whether you can even move them. These two forces are smashing right into each other, with the entire global supply chain stuck in the crossfire.
I mean, you really can't make this timing. Look at this. On February 20th, the Supreme Court says the old tariffs are illegal. Okay, problem solved, right? Wrong. Just hours later, new ones are slapped on. And then, get this, only 8 days after that, a military strike effectively shuts down the Strait of Hormuz. No wonder analysts are just calling it the mother of all bad timings. It's an understatement. So think about it like this. These two shocks are hitting companies from completely different directions. The tariff chaos messes with the price and makes it impossible to plan. The war disruption jacks up the cost and the time it takes to ship anything. When both of those hit you at the same time, something's got to give. Now stick with me here, because by the end of this, I'm going to give you a really clear framework to figure out who wins and who loses when something like this happens.
All right, let's dive into our first section. We're calling this the double shock, and we're going to break down exactly how this collision of uncertainty and disruption is shaking things up.
So let's start with the tariff chaos. You'd think the Supreme Court ruling would be good news, right? The old tariffs were ruled illegal. But nope. Almost immediately, new ones get signed into law just under a different authority. These new ones have a 15% cap and a 150-day limit. The legal mess is huge. We're talking almost 2,000 lawsuits for refunds. But honestly, the real killer here isn't the 15% rate. It's the fact that predictability is just gone. Poof. Businesses have no idea what their costs will be tomorrow, and that kind of uncertainty just freezes everything. And just as everyone is scrambling to figure out the tariffs, bam, 8 days later, the war hits. And when the Strait of Hormuz shuts down, it's not just about oil. People always think oil, but this is a critical highway for all sorts of industrial raw materials. So now, ships are taking the long way around Africa, adding 10, even 14 days to their trips. That creates this huge ripple effect. Sea shipping gets way slower and more expensive, and that pushes people to air freight. But about 14% of that is now suspended or rerouted too. You see, either one of these events on its own would be a huge deal. Both at once, it's a whole different level of problem. Okay, so where is the pain from this double shock being felt the most? Let's zoom in on 3 really exposed weak links in the global supply chain. These are the places where things are breaking first. First up, weak link number 1, automobiles. Honestly, the auto industry is always the canary in the supply chain coal mine. And why is it so vulnerable? Well, just think about it. A single car has something like 30,000 different parts, and those parts come from everywhere, all over the globe. So if there's one little disruption anywhere in that chain, the entire production line can just grind to a halt. And here's where it gets really concrete. The war makes oil prices spike. Well, what's made from oil? Petrochemicals. We're talking about all the plastics, adhesives, and synthetic rubber that are absolutely essential to building a modern car. Analysts are saying the cost for those basic inputs could jump by 15 to 25%. Now pile that on top of the new tariffs on imported auto parts, it's just a brutal 1-2 punch. All right, from cars, we move to our second weak link, European energy. Europe is in a really tough spot here. They are incredibly exposed to what's happening, especially with the Strait of Hormuz. See, a huge chunk of Europe's liquefied natural gas, LNG, comes right from Qatar. With that supply now choked off, it's no wonder people are saying Europe is reliving the nightmare of the 2022 Russian gas crisis. And it's not just heating and power. The jet fuel market is getting hit hard too. And that leads us to weak link number 3, Asian manufacturing. You have to remember, most of the oil and gas that goes through the Strait of Hormuz isn't heading west, it's heading east, to the manufacturing giants like South Korea, China, Japan, and India. And they are getting squeezed from both sides. Here's why they're so vulnerable. A lot of these massive factories run on a just-in-time supply model. That means they don't keep huge stockpiles of materials. Raw materials flow in constantly, just what they need when they need it. It's super efficient, until the flow stops. If that supply chain artery gets clogged for even a few days, the whole factory can shut down. Now, you throw the US tariffs on top of that, so Asian manufacturers are stuck. They're paying more for the raw materials they need, and they're paying more to sell their finished products. Ouch. So we've seen where the system is breaking, but there's always a flip side. In any crisis, money doesn't just vanish, it moves.
So let's follow the money and see if we can spot the winners and the losers in all this.
And that's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? In a crisis this big, where does the money actually go? Who's going to come out ahead and who's going to get crushed?
Well, we can already see three groups of clear winners emerging from the chaos. First, U.S. energy producers. Simple math, right? The U.S. exports more oil than it imports, so when global prices go up, that's pure profit. Second, companies that are all in on reshoring, bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. We're talking about critical stuff like semiconductors, batteries, pharmaceuticals. And finally, number three, the optimizers. These are the tech companies making the AI and automation software that helps other businesses slash their costs. When everyone's expenses are going through the roof, being the company that saves them money, well, that's a pretty good place to be.
But of course, for every winner, there's a loser. And we've got three groups on that side of the ledger too. First, any manufacturer that depends heavily on imports. Think autos, apparel, they're getting hammered by both tariffs and shipping costs. I mean, a company like Steve Madden just had to pull their entire financial forecast. Second, big retailers who import most of what they sell. They have no choice but to pass those rising costs on to you and me. And third, any company that relies on exports. With all the trade deal uncertainty, new investments are just getting put on ice.
Okay, let's get to the most important part of this whole analysis. This is where we make it practical. I promised you a framework to help you make sense of this double shock, and here it is. It's a really simple three-point framework you can use. First, check for double exposure. Look for companies getting hit by both the tariff price shock and the supply chain time shock. They're the most vulnerable. Second, keep an eye on the reshoring sectors. This isn't just a flash in the pan, it's a huge long-term shift. So who's actually building new production capacity at home? And third, find the optimizers. In a world where costs are high everywhere, the companies whose tech helps other businesses save money are going to be incredibly valuable. So when you step back and look at the big picture, this is what you see. You've got the courtroom, rewriting the rules of global trade. You've got the battlefield, physically stopping the flow of goods. And squeezed right there in the middle is the entire supply chain.
And I think that's the real key takeaway here today. It's all connected. You can't look at AI or war or tariffs in a vacuum. Every single one of these puzzle pieces clicks together to form one big picture.
Look, our job here is to help you understand the puzzle, not to predict the future. So I'm going to leave you with one final question to think about. In this new reality, with this double shock hitting the system, is your portfolio on the winner's side or the loser's side?